Widely regarded as the best role-playing game system ever created, the Hero system returns to print with its new 5th edition. Written by award-winning game designer Stephen S. Long, the 5th edition updates the classic Hero system rules, providing new options, clarifications, and information for Hero gamers everywhere.
Fantastic.
Yeah, the greatest role-playing system
ever.
I
know, that is that's a widely regarded as the greatest role-playing system ever? Is that what it said?
Well, everybody he asks tells him it's the greatest one.
Well, you know.
Well, I'm just stating for the record right now, just in case y'all didn't know.
It's your favorite.
This is my favorite system.
Yeah, no.
That is just how excited I got. I almost cursed on the air. That is just how much I love this game.
We would have bleeped it for, with something equally emphatic.
Yeah, no, that's exactly why I wanted to choose this one, was to go ahead and touch on a role-playing game system that is not one that I'm very, very, very familiar with. This is one that is Sam's baby, honestly.
Yep.
And so,
go ahead.
No. We ought to go ahead and get our introductions out of the way really quick. So, hi, I am John, and today I'm joined with, or by,
Roxanne.
And Sam.
Yeah, and we are going to talk about Hero System.
So that's the 5th edition?
That's the 5th edition.
How long ago did that come out?
Oh, my goodness.
Is it 7th edition that's just come out, or was it 6th edition that just came out?
I think it's actually 6th edition is officially the one that is out right now.
That's why I was wondering how long ago that was.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how long the editions were spanning.
It's kind of an interesting thing because...
the copyright is 1984. That's the earliest date.
Yeah.
It's been out for a while.
Well, the thing is that the 1984 actually is for Champions.
Yeah. I played that too.
Yeah, we will be hitting on all those wonderful topics here in a moment. But so Hero System, or Hero, however you've heard it called before.
Mm-hmm. It looks like it's just Hero System.
Yeah, came out in 1989. And this was kind of an interesting thing as I was going through this. We're starting to hit the point where there are years where we have games that other games came out, and so I'm having to find a few extra or different trivia. Mm-hmm. And so here are some new pop culture things that happened in 1989. We have the Game Boy released.
See, I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
I thought it came out after that, I guess. But see, I also get confused because I received my NES for my 6th birthday in 1990. And so...
Yeah.
But that was way after it came out. I thought I was on the cutting edge, but that's probably good because I didn't whine about it. I was just like, I got a video game.
And games the games for it were probably a little bit more affordable at that point.
Oh, God, yes. They were so, when I started with Commodore 64, I could get a game for $20.
Yeah.
I just remember my parents still thinking that games were way too expensive then. And I was like, oh. And then just as time went on, I was like, they're getting more expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the story of my life right there. Is I didn't have a whole lot of toys growing up as a kid because they were expensive. Video games, pretty much the same thing, but
that's why you went to Blockbuster.
Yep.
That's what I did, and I remember distinctly getting gift cards for this is going to sound really shady. I used to get gift certificates for the pawn shop because they had video games. And
that is pretty shady.
So my aunt gave me a $20 gift certificate to this pawn exchange place because they had a whole shelf of NES games. And I was like, I picked up Spy Hunter, which was one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, no, that was
I
great.
remember the upright.
Yeah. So I think I even got Mario Brothers 3 because I didn't have that one. I always had to go somewhere else to play it. And I was like, oh. I was pleased. But Blockbuster was where I would get the not Avoid the Noid, but the Noid game, which they just played on Retro Replay, which was the Dominoes
Yeah, which
character.
they don't have anymore. They don't have that.
Yeah.
No, it was a bizarre. It's a weird, freaky little character. But yeah, I played the video game for a lot from Blockbuster.
Loved it.
Blockbuster, not Bluster.
Well, other events of 1989, the Berlin Wall comes down.
I remember that.
I do too, and I think
You still have a piece of it upstairs.
yeah, I actually have a piece of the Berlin Wall that
Or it might be in our room.
no, it's upstairs. I saw it earlier, but it was my sister's humanities teacher for middle school was of German descent and had family there and was in town when the Berlin Wall came down, and so people didn't care at that point. I mean, the wall came down, pieces of it were tossed everywhere. Everybody was just happy to get rid of it. They would have probably burned it, and he shoved.
It's only interesting to.
Yeah, he shoved pieces of it into luggage to bring back to give to his students. And
the days before weight limits on your baggage.
I know.
Yeah.
And before
I mean,
X-rays and
now you have to pay $25 even if it's empty.
yeah, but so that's how I ended up with a piece of the Berlin Wall. In the end, because my sister, when she went off to college, she actually threw away a whole bunch of stuff, and I was just like, I'm not going, don't throw that away.
yeah, don't throw that away.
So
That's terrible.
yeah. So other things. Now this is an interesting one, which I was surprised to find out.
I didn't realize that it was that late. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, I mean it's ubiquitous now.
Yeah. So what we're talking about though is
yeah.
DNA evidence begins to be admissible in court, and that started in Florida and Virginia in that year.
Which is amusing because it's Florida.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Virginia, but which is also a weird tie into this game, which we're going to get to.
But yeah, DNA evidence, it's something that people talk. I mean, now you can get your DNA. I mean, I just uploaded my raw DNA data to a website, one of the genealogy sites, where you can actually match like segments and stuff and see what groups you're in. And
It's insane. It is
somebody
absolutely
was
insane.
like, I don't know how comfortable I feel about putting my DNA up on the internet. And I'm like, they have everything else about me. Why not just go ahead and give them that? But yeah, it's just something that is so prevalent now that although, we still have tons of issues with
Oh yeah.
DNA kits not being tested and stuff like that. But alas.
The pro-democracy rallies were held in Tiananmen Square in 1989. And so, yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, all the sour history that goes along with
Yeah,
that.
and what was he called? Tank Man? That picture.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
it was
the world-famous picture. I don't think it was was it a man who
yeah.
stood in front of the
He had he had bags in his hands, and
Yeah.
they actually gave him
Yeah.
a name. I wish I could remember what it was. But what's really interesting? 1989 actually holds a very special for me.
Oh.
I was in California when the earthquake hit.
Oh.
In 89.
Oh, yeah.
It was rough. They tossed out half the water in the pool. We didn't have power for days.
Yeah.
And so all the neighbors got together in our little apartment complex. We had never seen those people. And, I mean, we cooked all kinds of food because it was going to go bad. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy then.
Yeah.
I was delivering papers, believe it or not.
I don't remember much 1989. I just don't. But some things that came out as well, music-wise. Now, this is something a little bit different, but I thought this was interesting to list because it gives you an idea of age. And that is that the Black Crowes and the Cranberries formed in that year. Now, that doesn't mean that that's when they released their first
But
album
that was
or anything
when they
else.
began playing music.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it wasn't until the 90s that they really became famous, right? So that's when I started hearing them.
But I was like, okay, well, that tells you something. And also with the lead singer of the Cranberries having passed away last year.
Was it just last year?
Yeah.
Wow.
I thought it was longer ago than that.
Well, it feels like it was last year to me. So, and that's not saying much.
That's all that matters in John's mind.
Exactly. But famous songs of that year: the Bangles, "Eternal Flame,"
Never heard it.
Roxette, "The
I have.
Look,"
Oh, see, I know that too.
Milli Vanilli's "Don't Forget My Number," and of course the famous lip syncing controversy afterwards.
Was that the song that they got caught lip syncing?
They lip synced their entire album.
Well, I know they
Yeah.
did that, but
Well,
when
no,
they got
it was
caught,
in concert.
Yeah.
It was at a concert.
Yeah,
that
they got caught on a specific song on like a performance. And I was
Don't
wondering
Forget
if
My Number is probably one of their most
I don't
popular
know.
songs.
I don't know any of their music either.
It has not survived.
You're not missing much.
Yeah. Now this song I know.
Yeah. B-52's Love Shack.
Tin roof, rusted. I did that to him the other day, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like,
Wow.
you don't count.
Well, see, I mean, I love B-52s. It's like
Oh, they're so good.
them and the Clash are like my punk bands that I really, really like. And, oh, God, yes, B-52s rock.
It was a rock lobster.
What was that guy's name? French?
No, Fred Schneider.
Fred
I think.
Schneider, that's
I
it.
think is his name. He's still performing.
And
a lot
he's
of them
still
are.
talking like
Yeah. He's nuts.
that.
In a good way. In a good way. In a good way.
Yeah.
Movies of 1989. Batman. Tim Burton.
We went to go to the opening night, and the theater it was in, we just, we were going to see, the line was wrapped around the movie theater and into the street.
Was it one of the first well done
Oh, yes.
comic book movies?
In my opinion, yes.
I would say Superman.
Superman was
Okay,
good.
Superman,
yeah, and that's a good
but
point.
still one of the first.
Yeah. We'll
as
say
far
modern.
We'll say
modern.
as far as franchises go. I mean,
Yeah.
Batman is pretty good. I mean, the first Batman is pretty good.
Well, yeah.
The second one's pretty good too. I
you
like
had
Batman.
Michael Keaton, you had Jack Nicholson, and you had the wonderful soundtrack by Prince. Oh, whatever. I know you have your. I know you have your feelings on that because you wanted the musical score by Danny Elfman.
I wanted the Elfman score, of course.
And they don't have it.
It was
they
not.
do.
It was.
they do now.
It was hilarious. They released the CD of the soundtrack, and I even went and tried to get it, and it was all Prince's songs on the soundtrack. And then like a month or two later, they released the score.
Well, see, it was also for the Elfman. I believe it was this way for the Elfman soundtrack. The bat symbol was in the center, but for Prince's album, it was off to the side, so it looked the same.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yay! Oh, son of okay.
And then a couple months later, they released the expanded thing where it was the 2 CDs in one case.
Yeah, but you only need the score.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
only need the score. I don't need the Prince tracks either.
So other movies, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Never
Yes.
have seen that.
Really?
What?
It's
Yeah, I've only seen the first
I
two.
can't. I don't know you anymore.
I know. It
You have to
changes
see it.
everything.
You have to see it for Sean
That
Connery.
actually is one movie that I would not be ashamed to show you. You know, there's a lot of movies from the 80s
That
and 90s.
explains a lot about our relationship.
What?
Well, no, so Roxy is younger than me
Well,
and
duh.
has not seen a lot of movies that I have. And there are times where I'm like, going back and showing the other movies, it works with people who grew up in a certain time, but not always. It's like I can't show Blade Runner to a new generation.
Oh yeah, they won't get it.
I can't show. There's all kinds of movies out there that the pacing is terrible by today's standards. The plot line is hokey and cheesy by our standards. The only really the big movies that still hold up out of the 80s and 90s are comedies, and that's my opinion.
See, I don't know, because I mean, there's
What
still.
about Die Hard?
I don't
That's
think
pretty
she's seen that.
I've never seen a single Die Hard movie.
The first one is the best. The first one is the best.
Yeah, I had. I don't know if it was necessarily my upbringing because I'm pretty sure, like, I've seen parts of Die Hard movies, and I like 90s action movies. I love the Lethal Weapon movies, and I liked. It might have
the
been
buddy
80s.
cop type movies.
Yeah. Oh, I love Tango and Cash. That's one of my favorites. But so he always says I'd be embarrassed to show it to you. It's not like I haven't seen that stuff before. I'm not that much younger, and I was raised by older people, and I hung out with older people. So I mean, I've watched and seen a lot, but I think you think that they're hokey now, and you're embarrassed. But it's not because of me.
Well, no, there are movies out there.
Now there's some anime that you've tried to show me that I'm like, turn this off. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't do this.
There are animes that definitely don't hold up to today's voice acting standards. But the thing is, there are movies that like people go gaga over from my generation of nerds, and I'm like,
but if they like it,
yeah,
and they have a reason why they like it, that doesn't, even if it's hokey by today's standards,
yeah,
they still have a love for it. And I mean, and somebody else can still do that.
Yeah, but the thing is, these are the things where people are this like, you have to see this movie, you have to see this movie. And I'm like, no,
I mean,
because
I made you watch that weird Japanese musical the other day.
Yeah.
And it's awful, but it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sure a lot of kids today, if you sat them down and made them watch Tron, the first one.
See, I don't like the first one.
They would just be like, this is the most boring
Although,
thing ever. This is ugly.
I'm about to drop a bomb. I think I've only seen that one in parts too. I don't think I've seen all of Tron, and I've never seen any of the others.
If you compare it today,
oh yeah, it looks
it's
awful.
horrible.
It looks awful.
At the time, it was groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, and I can appreciate that. I mean, I can go, right now, looking at it, it's like, ugh. But even if you look at, like, cool things that have been done in films in the last 20 years, we have come a long way just in 20 years, let alone 40 to encompass all these older films. So, I mean, you get kids like Levi, and they look at they look at even the second batch of Star Wars movies, and they're like, ugh, what is this?
Yeah, they can't it's a matter of pacing. And so it's like, that's why I'm like, no, stick to the things that are nerdy and that are coming out. And then if something piques your interest, it piques your personal interest, not because it was somebody else who said you have to see this, then that's the point where I'm like, see it. Because I'm always worried to show like the classics with some people, because I'm pretty, Labyrinth, The Last Unicorn, Legend.
Oh, those are all wonderful.
These are, for you and I, these are like movies that were like,
we grew up with.
You put those on the TV, and I'd probably get a pillow and sit down in front of it, and like inches from that screen.
No, you wouldn't.
That's just how.
You wouldn't do it. Our TV's up too high.
But yeah,
you'd get a crick in your neck. No, that's the thing. There was a time in my life when I was like, I could be a movie buff. No, because the only movies that I was watching was stuff that was currently on, and I got to a point where people were like, well, have you seen this? And have you seen this? And I'm like, no, I haven't. And I don't know what it was, but I mean, I saw The Labyrinth because I've talked about the Disney Descrambler that my dad found in the shop. And so we got the Disney Channel for free. Then we stole the Disney Channel for a number of years, and Labyrinth played on it. So Dad recorded it. But a lot, like, I never saw The Last Unicorn. Now Amanda grew up with it, and Amanda grew up with.
Oh, it's like Watership Down. Like, it's beautiful, but it scars you for life.
Yeah, and that's what I've heard. And it's stuff like that I guess it was just my mom didn't want to watch it, and so we didn't, or my dad didn't want to watch it. So I grew up with Doctor Who, Tom Baker, because Dad could record it late at night on PBS, and we had cassette tapes of it. And then I watched Star Trek. So I grew up with all the stuff that my parents were watching. As far as kid stuff goes, I didn't get a lot of that. I mean, my favorite movie when I was like way too small to be watching it was Ghostbusters. So, I mean, I've watched Ghostbusters since I was an adult, and I was like, I should not have been watching this movie. It's not that bad. But when you think of like a 5-year-old kid and that ghost is doing something to Ray, and you're like, oh my goodness, this should not be happening. Peter Venkman is a cad.
Well, but Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, wasn't that River Phoenix's last role?
It's one of them, yes.
I
don't remember if that was the last one or if Gleaning the Cube was his last one. It's one or the other.
That's the skateboarding movie. Okay,
yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because Pinterest every now and again goes through a phase where it suggests random things for me, and Amanda and I are always pinning actors because we cast faces for our writing, and it went through this phase where it just gave me 1,000 River Phoenix pictures, and I was like, I feel like he did not die so long ago. I mean, I have not seen so many of these photographs or of this stage in his life. I was like, he was prolific.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much. I mean, he really, for his age, because he was, 23?
He was very young, yeah.
He was very young when he passed, but he made a lot of movies. But anyway, it has nothing to do with the hero system.
Well, let's get the other two movies out of the way really quick that I mentioned, and that is Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
I've seen that movie a lot.
I had an English teacher rant for 30 minutes on why she hated that title.
Honey,
I Shrank the Kids.
Oh, yeah, but it's a Disney movie. So
she was anal retentive.
Yeah. I mean, I get it, but still.
And, of course, The Little Mermaid. So
I've only seen it once in my entire life.
that was the Disney movie of that year. So.
She was a little twit. I don't know. I'm not an Ariel fan.
Well, the original story is much better.
Mm-hmm.
I think she dies at the end. Of the original
Endless
story.
pining and dying
Yep.
is so much better. Yeah.
But that's Hans Christian Andersen for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and move on into the game. Now we got all.
You know
that
what
out
I
of the
did in
way.
1989?
What did
I
you
was
do in
thinking about it.
1989?
I started kindergarten. Early. I still remember the test I had to take to get into kindergarten when I did. So I was smart once.
You know, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I realize we played Champions, not Hero system. But I mean, it's essentially the same anyway. But
Yeah.
Largely it is. Yeah. Let's go ahead and get into that. So, Heroes system. The best way to understand where this game came from, this huge, monolithic, best written game of all time. It came out as a stripped-down version of Champions RPG 4th edition. So there had already been 3 editions of Champions RPG by the time first edition of Heroes came out, which is an interesting thing to think about. And the way it came into being was simply that they removed all mentions of superheroes as the core mechanic or idea of the hero system and made it a generic role-playing system that it could be used for anything, even though, honestly, it still was used mainly for superhero gaming.
See, it's interesting to me that the name was Champions and it was about superheroes, and then when they took away the superheroes, they called it Hero System. It seems backwards
Yeah,
to me
no.
that because Champions to me make me think of like Spartans and gladiators and stuff like that, not necessarily.
well, see, that was the
superheroes.
nice thing about it. I mean, yeah, it was Champions. I mean, it kind of was angled towards superheroes, but because it's a point system, you could make anything, anything you wanted. But of course, you had to figure everything out point wise, but yeah, you could have done anything with it, which is why it's so nice.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh,
Go
no,
ahead.
no.
No,
Well, and we're-
gosh, please.
No, you're going to... I know when we get to the physical property, you're just going to love it. But so, before we touch on Heroes, let's go ahead and touch on Champions, since that's where this came from. And Champions was originally created by George MacDonald and Steve Peterson, who was a trial lawyer. And it was made eventually they hired Rob Bell, who is now a Republican politician from Virginia, Bruce Harlick, who replaced Monty Cook, who did briefly work on Champions, and Ray Greer. Out of all of that mix, I mean, this is where things get interesting. I'm just like, wow, we got a highbrow game here going. If you just look at the names, Steve Peterson being a trial lawyer, being one of the people who founded this. I think that his story is that he actually started off as a lawyer and decided to go straight into gaming.
Because it looks like he's a game designer, or he was a game designer after being a lawyer, whereas Rob Bell left games or left game design to go into politics.
Yeah.
But it's smaller politics. I mean, it's
state level politics.
It's state level.
Although he did try to run for the state. What was it? State attorney general. So that was his last term, and he did not get elected for that. And so he went back to being state representative.
Cool.
No, that's his part in this. But so Rob Bell, which is an interesting part of this, the guy who was a politician, he was originally a convention volunteer for Iron Crown Enterprises, ICE, ICE, while attending classes at the University of Virginia, and began working for them full-time as an editor. And he is the one who unified the Hero system from the Hero Games license by ICE. And what we know about the 4th edition role-playing game of Champions released in 1989 is that it was largely the work of Bell. And one of the neat things that he did, which game companies still do today, is put together, do conventions and game tours and put out betas and get actual gamers to test everything for you.
right.
Which Pathfinder just did. They just put out their beta for 2nd edition Pathfinder to do exactly the same thing. And that, I think to me, that is a pioneered thing right there that they did.
Mm-hmm.
So
I wish I still had my Champions book. It was one of the many things that was destroyed in the fire. I lost so much stuff, but that was one of the things, and I had hoped to keep it, but oh well.
Yeah. One of the things that the back of the book mentioned was that it was written by Stephen Long, award-winning game designer. So Stephen Long is now what I would say is the modern source of what we know for the hero system. Like, he is the guy who has taken it from that point with ICE and under those guys in 1990 and took the game forward. So Stephen Long came on to work for 4th edition and founded a game company called DOJ and was the editor for 5th and 6th edition, which is the edition you've got.
You keep saying, okay, Stephen Long.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, Stephen S. Long is, how they...
No, that's fine. He wasn't listed in the stuff at the top, and that's where I was afraid you were saying Steve Peterson's name.
Oh, no. So Stephen Long...
Because that would be irony.
Yeah.
Or not irony, but coincidence or interesting that the trial lawyer named his...
The DOJ?
The DOJ.
Yeah, well, and that's another thing was Stephen Long was another lawyer.
Oh.
Yeah, no, Stephen Long... So we've had one lawyer, one politician who helped found this. And then we have a trial lawyer, who went game designer, and he worked for, like, looking back at his past, he worked for White Wolf, he worked for Pinnacle, he worked for Steve Jackson Games. I think one of the games he did for them was Car Wars. He worked for Last Unicorn Games. He worked for Gold Rush Games. And as far as big license games of the 80s that he worked on the Star Trek game license from that time period, as well as the Lord of the Rings games.
I remember Star Trek. You know how they have the game, I don't remember the name, I don't know the name of it, but it's basically, the X-Wings is Star Wars ships, and it's like ship. They had that for Star Trek.
Yeah.
That's when I first was introduced to it.
Okay.
It was wild. I had no idea what they were doing.
It was ship battle games.
Yeah, it was basically it. Yeah, ship battle.
Founded DOJ he worked on the 5th and 6th edition, and he now releases Hero System in its newest iteration from his own personal label called Elvensong Street. And he has developed over 70 RPGs, written fiction novels, and short stories. Some of the majority, I will say the majority of his short stories and fiction novels are role-play parallel titles. Like, I think he wrote for a Pathfinder short story, and he was written a couple Shadowrun short stories. But, still, that's a lot of work, and that's why, he's listed, they kind of list himself. I mean, 'cause, let's be honest. So he is the editor, and what's on the back of that book, he would have had to approve about himself. That's, to me, I find that interesting. Also, be sure to touch on Aaron Alston, who was his co-creator for DOJ. And I just, want to toss it out because he actually passed away about 4 or 5 years ago.
Who, Alston?
Alston, yeah.
Oh, man.
But he was a great game creator and fantasy writer, worked with TSR. He worked alongside Michael Stackpole for the Star Wars novels such as the X-Wing series and the Legacy of the Force series. But, he is no longer with us, but he was a huge part of the hero system. I definitely just want to put his name out there, not let him be forgotten.
He is with us in spirit.
So, looking at it, so that's the hero system, and we're going to continue on with that topic, but just to touch on this, I don't know if you ever played City of Heroes.
Oh, yes. I loved it.
City of Heroes was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful MMO.
Yes. I mean, it was small. There really weren't a whole lot of people. But, I could at any time say, hey, I need help getting through this particular scene. And I would have at least 5 people respond, say, hey, I'm here, I'm free. You don't get that in World of Warcraft. It is like nobody listens.
Yeah.
And I've been in both. And I was so sad when City of Heroes went down.
Me
but
too.
I'm really shocked that they have it and they're still here because I thought that was their only thing.
Yeah, no. Well, Cryptic Studios, who released the MMO City of Heroes, bought the rights to Champions to use not so much for its system, they really didn't use the whole creation system or anything like that.
Yeah.
But they used the concepts found within the system of champions in order to create the world of City of Heroes. And so that's why they own that property. And in order to use the hero system, Stephen Long has to get the licensing from them. And so they still hold that licensing. I don't know what they're doing these days.
Yeah, because from what I heard, they dropped it because they like ran out of money or went bankrupt or something. They just couldn't afford to keep it up anymore.
Yeah.
And then they just disappeared. There was brief talk of bringing it back, but that went nowhere.
I think there was even talk of doing it as a mobile game, and that didn't go anywhere. So
disgusting.
But so that is the property's history. Let's go ahead now and look at the physical product. And this, I'm going to let y'all look at this wonderful, wonderful book, because this is a massive tome. Oh my goodness. It is huge. It is a hardback. And how many pages is that thing?
I was just looking at it. I'm in the index, and it's 365.
I mean, this is bigger than the majority of Dungeons and Dragons books. This is bigger than the majority of Shadowrun books. This is a thick, thick book.
372.
There we go.
372 pages.
So yeah, it is hardback. It is a fairly simplistic appearance to the cover. It is black and green with logo and very simplistic art. You want to go ahead and pass that down to Roxy? I mean, I don't think she's ever seen this.
I don't think I have. The Ultimate Gamer's Toolkit.
Yep. Now,
no,
please.
No, I was about to say it's similar to GURPS.
Yeah.
Where you can use it to make up any kind of scenario, any kind of world or setting, and you can adjust the characters. You can create the characters that fit in that. So
yeah, so that's one of the things about the hero system. That is why people went crazy for it. And according to a couple sources online, this is not even a thing that's sourced, but it's a point-buy system. You buy your points. You have a certain scale based on the power level set by the game master. So they give you a certain amount of character points, and you build. And this isn't even so much making stats. This is making powers. How your dice interacts, how far power works, how the power interacts. You are building everything for your character from the ground up. There is very few games like that I've ever imagined at that level of detail. But the thing was that what got it such a huge following was that this was, and this is where it's sourced. RPG.net and a few others. This is the first published RPG to offer a way to do character creation that was not random dice rolls. Like Roxy, you've kind of come into fantasy roleplay with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition and Pathfinder, where stats for the most part, a lot of the things were by. Like you started with a 10 and then you put points into it to raise your stats.
I want to say that was like an optional thing in AD&D.
But for the most part,
I want to say, but I mean, it was optional. I mean, it wasn't the main thing.
The main thing that has always been in role-playing games until I'd say almost the last 20 years, has been random dice roll. Like, and I used that for a while. The whole, the most common one that I did, because I ran heroic games, was like for a D20 system, I would have people roll 4d6 and drop the lowest.
That's what I did, yeah.
And so that gives you a range of anywhere from 3 to 18 as far as your stats. This game said, hey, quit leaving it to chance, give people the opportunity to build whatever they want. And it's up to the GM to set the power level.
I want to say low powered was 100 points, average was 150, somewhat powerful was 200, and then anything from 300 up, those were like the major heroes.
Are you looking at total points or just
total
base
points? Like that's how many points you would get to create a character.
Total points under super heroic. Is that what you mean by? Because they have a low powered category in super heroic, which is 250.
What's low powered?
Well, under that is low powered. Now, if it's just standard hero,
They may have changed it, or I'm misremembering
Standard
it.
hero is 150, and like a competent normal person is 100.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, super heroic actually has quite a wide range, because if you go ahead and bump up to super heroic, you have your low powered at 250, with your cosmically powerful going all the way to 700 plus.
Yep.
But there are.
They can get ugly. I mean, it can get ugly.
But then you
like,
can
real
get just
quick.
like an incompetent person, which is 0. An incompetent normal.
Yeah.
Those incompetent normies. That's a lot of points.
It
That
is.
just seems daunting.
Well, go ahead.
No, please, because I'll regale us with your stories, and I'll regale you with mine.
Well, the reason I liked Champions, and I'm pretty sure it was Champions that I was playing, is they had basic powers. For example, Energy Blast. You spent 5 points per 1d6 for damage. Now, you were free to describe it however you wanted. Force blasts, fire, ice, etc. Once you chose it, that was it. But it would affect your battles. It would affect how it interacted, like you were saying, how it interacts with the world. But it could be anything. You can decide it. So it isn't like energy blast, fire blast, anything like that. And all of the powers were like that.
Yeah.
Which was really, really nice.
So my introduction to this system was actually with you, and we didn't play it terribly long, but so
I'll be darned.
a long time ago when you and I lived in College Station, we were playing Palladium's Heroes Unlimited.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you were running a character for me who was essentially a street-level Iron Man ripoff. He was something between the Punisher and Iron Man. He made his own battle armor, and he didn't have high budget in order to do all the bells and whistles that Iron Man had. So it's basically this power armor with a whole bunch of machine guns on it.
Wow. Alcohol really does kill brain cells, because I remember none of that.
And the thing is that, so I liked my character. We had a great time. Because my character could do all kinds of general mayhem. And at the same time, one of the things I loved in the games that you ran was how much exploration was a part of it and interaction. So I would go to these far-off locales and investigate and interact with other heroes who you would often create.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a great story. But there came a point in the game where you were like, I'm really, feeling like we need to do more with your character, but I really don't like Palladium's leveling system. Let's switch over to the hero system. And so I had to create my character, Fenris, that was his name, in Heroes Unlimited. I had to recreate him in the hero system. And it blew my mind. I still remember, I was like, okay, I'm making my character. How do you do this? I had never seen anything like it in my life. I mean, there are two gaming experiences that I considered to be those eye-opening experiences, and this is one of them, where I had to, I still remember, okay, I'm making my energy weapon, and where is the weapon is one of the options. And I was looking at it, so you could have it shoot from your eyes, but then the thing is that these are restrictions that if you shoot it from your eyes, it has to be something you can see or look at. So if your head is immobile or if it's behind you, you can't do it. If it's your hands, if your hands are immobilized, you can't shoot whatever it is. But you have a lot more freedom otherwise of pointing and doing whatever. Mm-hmm. And these were just some of the things. So I had to pick a location. I had to pick what the power level of damage was. I had to pick what its range was. And these were all things that I had to work out. And I was like, man, I've never played a game where I had to put this much work into what I was doing.
But and it's nice actually, because your character grows organically as opposed to like D&D, where you play and your character can do this. Oh, I'm up a level now. I can do all this other stuff.
Yeah,
right.
It's very sudden. Whereas this, it's like, okay, you have X number of points as experience. Okay, I want to do this. I want to do that, and your character levels up very, very slowly.
Yeah.
But no, the advantages and disadvantages is what you were thinking of. So like energy blast from your eyes might be 5 points per 1d6, but you could apply the disadvantage. It's actually a gun.
Mm-hmm. Which can be taken away from you.
Which can be taken away. So it was a major disadvantage because of that risk. And of course, the advantages are also really cool. Like the beams go through walls.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was just like, this is crazy. But to me, it was at the same time very eye-opening. Now, it took me, I think, 3 days to make my character.
Oh, yeah. It takes you hours at first. It is so math heavy.
Yeah. And I'd never done anything like that, but I was also at that age where I was more than willing to put that time and effort into that character, you know. But I'm not that person anymore so much. I'm like, let me make one real quick.
I know, it's
that's
like,
story.
I'm always happy when I'm like, oh, hey, that character creation only took like an hour.
You know, it's...
well, see, my thing is, the thing that would be difficult for me, I think, is I am awful at coming to a game with an idea for a character. That is like one of the areas, and I'm sure there are other gamers like me, but there are so many times when I come to a table and people are like, oh, I have this character that I've been thinking about for all this time, and I have all these, this is the perfect character for this game, and I'm so excited, and they have all this like backstory and all this stuff, and I'm like, man, I come to the table and I roll, and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to and I build it off of what I get, I guess, from based on the games that I've played before. It's very difficult for me to just like I just don't have those random concepts. Like if somebody comes up and says, I'm going to run a superhero game, what kind of superhero do you want to play? Well, I don't know. What are my options? You know?
Loser.
I know. Well, it probably, like I said, I feel like every time I come to a table and someone's like, oh, I have this, and like we play with people who use accents. Like one of the girls in our Tomb of Annihilation games has this very pretty decent Eastern European Russian accent that she does, and I'm just like, I don't even feel comfortable using the accents that I'm good at, you know, in a setting in front of other people. I'll talk to myself in it all the time.
Well, John will tell you I used accents in all our games.
John does too.
Yeah.
John has one accent.
I have one accent that I use quite a bit, yes.
Yeah. That it's like whenever he is suddenly in character, all of his characters have a kind of English accent.
Kind of, yes.
Yes. There it is. Yes.
Very breathy.
He suddenly becomes an Englishman who, is very breathy and doesn't like to open his mouth very much.
Yeah, that's me.
So,
that was my introduction to this system. I don't know. It's one of those systems that, for me, it's really... I think it holds a place, but I don't really see it getting played at cons, and I think that's probably one of the things that holds it back as far as being a really big system these days.
have we looked?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's the system. You would have to build the character before you even arrive.
Oh yeah. Well,
there's no way you could build
most
it
con
there.
games have pre-gens, a
Oh, okay.
plethora of pre-gens available. Now, not saying that you can't come to the table with your own, but it has to already be built because you know the game slots are like 4 hours. So if you can't make your you can't sit and make your character for all of that time. So
When I got proficient at it, it would take us about an hour to create just a general run a standard superhero, just because of all the math.
yeah.
So I mean, even that is, I mean, like D&D, we can just boom boom throw it together, we're good, but not with heroes.
Yeah.
No. But so where the games are now, I mean, obviously Champions is where it is. It is a licensed property under Cryptic Studios. But here's the thing. The 6th edition version of Heroes system, as well as additional support books for Champions and the other Heroes properties, are available at herogames.com. And Hero Games has also put out its own software package to make characters. So you can it's very similar to what's the name of the one that we use for D&D?
For what?
For making characters?
Hero Lab.
Hero Lab. It's very similar to Hero Lab, but it simplifies the idea of making your character for you. But you also have other hero properties which are interesting. You have Fantasy Hero, you have Pulp Hero, you have Star Hero, and there is also now a Champions LARP, all the rules of which are available at heroesgames.com. And that's where it is.
Wow.
Yeah, you're shaking your head because you have quite the
Champions LARP. I would have a difficult time. I'm
Taking it
having
serious?
I'm having a difficult time trying to think how would that work. I mean, you'd have to come up with a lot of different things to, like, when we were playing Vampire. If we were if we were using a language, we'd do an L sign right on our head to signify that we were doing, speaking in a different language.
Yeah.
But I mean, here it's like energy blast, killing blast, shields, so there's a lot of options.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see. And of course, my thing is, it's hard enough for me to take to step outside of myself and into the idea of a character of in World of Darkness LARPing as a vampire or a werewolf. Now I'm LARPing as a superhero.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's bad enough when in the LARPs, the White Wolf LARPs, people are running around in black capes. I don't want to imagine people running around in spandex and capes. And anyway.
I don't know. That might be kind of cool. Cute.
It might be.
Just actually, as a side note, the what's that one? I don't have my glasses on.
We have the
Classic
Enemies book.
The artist is George Perez. He has done a lot of superhero. And in fact, I think one of his major ones that I've seen is like a lot of the characters from DC and Marvel, coming together. He's done that. So yeah, George Perez, that's one of his, I think that may be one of his earlier stuff.
Cool.
But yeah, that's where I got to know him. Good know him.
Yeah, cover art George Perez, interior art Pat Zurcher and Mark Williams. So anyway, but yeah, we have now dived into another of the, it's not so much generic, but a open source or open game general role-playing system. So
I still say it's the best.
there you go.
Because it doesn't have a setting, right?
It does
Nope.
not have a core setting.
It's just character creation.
Boom, make it yourself, pretty
Yep.
much.
Okay.
Yeah, which for me, and usually I've been trying to ask, would you play this again, or would you ever want to play it? Obviously, for Sam, it is a heck yes.
Mm-hmm.
I myself, I would probably be willing to play it, but I don't think I'd be willing to run it because my problem with the hero system. Now, there's plenty of source material now online with heroes, herogames.com.
Sure it is, yeah.
But I would find it very hard because what I ran into with the system is you have to make everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you want a villain for the system, you have to sit down and make it all.
Yeah.
And that to me got kind of daunting. So
Well, after a while, I didn't have to build it from the ground up. I had a general idea. It's like, okay, this really isn't all that powerful, or it isn't too powerful. So I'll just give them this and this and this. That sounds about right. But once again, that's after several years of playing. So constant playing because I had no life.
And of course, Roxy, what about you? Would you play this game?
I'd probably play it. Like I said, it would just be a matter of trying to figure out a character concept to come to. So because this system would be,
It's daunting.
it would be what would overwhelm me, because the way that I generally build characters is I build the character kind of at the table, and this system seems like if you don't have a good concept of what you want to have, you will spend years just trying. It's like, well, do I want that? Because I'm that person who I can't hardly make a decision. So I'm like, well, do I want that, or do I want that, or do I want both?
Yeah,
but then do I want this thing over here?
That hero system is not a game for indecisive people because, like we've been saying, you have to build it from the ground up.
Yeah.
And I think it's because it has an infinite number of choices.
Yeah.
Like fighter. Okay, I have these certain things that I can do, and I know what I can't do. Whereas with hero, it's like, where, huh? What does my character do? I don't know. So.
Well, Wikipedia doesn't even know that he did this book, the cover for that book.
Wow. That's not surprising.
Because they only know his comic stuff.
Well, it's kind of like...
Jerk.
Just you who knows the Champions cover.
I know something, yay!
Well, that and, of course, Zenko with doing Heroes Unlimited cover. It's like, I doubt too many people will remember that, so...
Wow.
But anyway, there's our show for this week.
Right. We'll see you guys.
Later, guys.
You've been listening to Tome Travelers. Please subscribe to get our episodes as soon as they release. For more information about us, check out PassionNerdly.com, at PassionNerdly on Twitter and Instagram, as well as Facebook.com/PassionNerdly. Also, if you're interested in supporting our show, look us up at Patreon.com/PassionNerdly. Once again, thank you for listening.
This has been a production of the Southgate Media Group. For more podcasts like this one, head over to SouthgateMediaGroup.com.